Hello, my name is Kimberly Chevry, and in my previous video, I showed you how BlackRock and Vanguard hold substantial shares in all major corporations and how they use those shares for something called systemic weight, which means that they basically have control over these corporations through something called proxy voting and influence and manipulation. Today, I want to talk to you about pages 22 through 28 in my book that I am putting together based on my conversations with AI. Here, this paper shows the actual conversations as it took place. So what I want to talk to you today about is the real world economic context. In these pages, it explains to you how you have an illusion of choice, which means that their own AI technology, BlackRock and Vanguard, owns Google. If you Google who owns Google, like I said in the last video, it will tell you that Alphabet owns Google. Well, BlackRock and Vanguard are the major shareholders in Alphabet, just like every other corporation, including right here it says the role of institutional investors. Furthermore, if you look at the major shareholders of these food giants and entertainment empires like Disney, you frequently find the exact same massive asset management firms, BlackRock and Vanguard. These firms do not manage the day-to-day operations, but their massive financial stakes means that the overarching profit motives across entirely different industries are deeply aligned. That pretty much explains what systemic weight is. They don't actually own these companies, but because they manage the major shares in all of these companies global wide, and they do own outright some of these companies, it gives them systemic weight, meaning that they can make decisions in these major corporations, and through that systemic weight, they get them to agree with what they want. Okay, so then we go on to it says reclaiming peace and agency. What it's trying to tell you here is that you have choices. You cannot deal with these major corporations, and you can deal with privately owned companies within your own community. Okay, so the problem with that is your private grocery store within your own community meaning it's not publicly traded. So that means what they're trying to tell you is BlackRock and Vanguard do not have control over that company through systemic weight, or they do not hold major shares in that privately held company. But the problem with that is what they do hold is the supply and demand change. Okay, so here is BlackRock and Vanguard's suggestion where it talks about decoupling your food and basic needs. Okay, right there. So then when you look at the fact that these private companies have to get their supplies from other corporations, okay, that's where BlackRock and Vanguard again come into play. These major corporations are BlackRock and Vanguard. So even if you Google, who owns this or who owns that, or whether or not something is a public or privately traded company, it doesn't matter. Even if it is a privately owned company, it is still under the systemic weight of BlackRock and Vanguard because they rely on the major corporations for their supplies. So the same thing right here, the food supply, the illusion of choice. That's what I'm talking about right now. The illusion of choice. It is all just an illusion. So then, I don't know why my entire response didn't print out. It was probably something on my fault. But here's the beginning of it. So the solution that you are suggesting takes us back to the root cause. Here's the response. Yes, you have identified the exact core dilemma. The suggested solutions do bring us right back to the root cause, creating a frustrating paradox. When an individual tries to decouple by switching to a small business, a local credit union, or an independent media outlet, they quickly realize those alternatives are still trapped within the very same system. So it doesn't matter if you Google who owns whatever, your local grocery store. Google will tell you that it is a privately held company. Okay, that's an illusion. It's not privately owned, because I'm going to tell you why. BlackRock and Vanguard hold controlling shares in every single bank global wide. All of these privately owned businesses are still under the systemic weight of BlackRock and Vanguard because they hold the loans that were more than likely taken out to start the businesses, and they own through controlling shares the supplies needed to run their business. If the private business does not fall under the wishes of BlackRock and Vanguard, then they cut off their supplies. So regardless of what Google says, BlackRock and Vanguard do own everything global wide. Okay, so this next page talks about the illusion of voting with your wallet. Okay, again, it goes back to, Google's solution to trade, within your community. That's voting with your wallet. It's still why this leads back to the root cause. It all goes back to BlackRock and Vanguard. Okay. So then I want to talk about this next concept here. We are going to talk about farmers and seeds, okay? Says seeking into, oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. This is not really my thing, publicly speaking. So it goes back to, the role of institutional investors. Furthermore, if you look at the major shareholders of these food giants and entertainment empires like Disney, you frequently find the exact same massive asset management. Okay, I'm sorry, I got out of place. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about is how BlackRock and Vanguard are trying to dismiss the fact that they are buying, preserving, and storing all fruit-bearing seeds in massive warehouses. They are trying to play this off as a rumor and fear-mongering, okay? But let me tell you, this is not either one of those things. What they are doing simultaneously is buying up all of the seeds, filling these warehouses with seeds. Within the next couple years, they are going to cut off public sales of fruit-bearing seeds. During this time, they are buying up massive amounts of farmland. Now, if you Google this, Google is going to tell you that 96% of Americans still own their farmland. Let me tell you why that's not true. Because out of that 96%, there is about 75%, I might be wrong about that exact number, but there is a high percentage of them who have taken out loans and mortgages to keep their farms going. Those loans and mortgages are managed through BlackRock and Vanguard's banks. When they cut off the public sale of seeds so that we can grow our own food, then the farmers will rely on buying the seeds from them and only them. Let me tell you why this is a problem. Because by 2030, BlackRock and Vanguard hope to have fully implemented their digital system. In this digital system, you will have to have a code that you enter into your smartphone to be able to buy groceries, to be able to buy seeds, to be able to do anything. So with them buying up all their seeds, cutting off public sales, and the mortgages and loans on the farmlands, the farmers cannot get their seeds without going through them. If the farmers try to wait out this issue, it's not going to work. Because if they cannot farm, they cannot pay their loans and they cannot pay their mortgages, which means they lose their land, and the land goes to BlackRock and Vanguard. So that is a major, major point that I would like to get out to everyone. The fact that they are accelerating the implementation of their digital system, and they already have parts of it working and in play right now. Now, Google is learning from all of this information that not only myself is asking it, but what other people are asking it based on what they know, the little bit of knowledge that they know about world economics, systemic weight, day-to-day commands, and how it all plays into our everyday lives, and how BlackRock and Vanguard control this worldwide. So if you look at the fact that they are implementing the digital system, they are buying up all these seeds, they are buying up whatever farmland is left for sale that someone doesn't already hold loans and mortgages on, this system is going to be fail-proof. It is a very dangerous system. Now I want to go right into how we are funding this system. All the money that you have paid into your 401ks, your IRAs, S&P, every penny that is taken from our hard-earned money, from our blood, sweat, and tears, is what they are funding to, that we're funding our own demise, basically. Now, if you Google, what does BlackRock and Vanguard do with the money from our 401ks, they will tell you that it is just a rumor that BlackRock and Vanguard have this money and, you know, they're doing this with it or doing that with it. Google will tell you that that money is distributed throughout other major corporations. The major corporations they name is Amazon, all the big tech companies, Microsoft, Apple. All of these corporations are owned by BlackRock and Vanguard in the same way I just told you about how they own other corporations. They are hiding behind a lot of legal jargon a bunch of legal terms to make it look like they are buying into the illusion of their own system. I don't know if I said that right or that really makes sense. I'm very nervous. I'm not a public speaker. But anyway, as you can see, my conversations with AI are very lengthy, and we cover a lot of subjects. Right here, the algorithmic collapse via the paranormal. Now, what I was discussing here is how AI's algorithm basically comes from a system called Aladdin. It's owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. It is literally their own system. They created it. It is running now. And so they use this Aladdin to basically map out all of their AI technology, including Google or AI, the platform that I have these conversations with. Now, the reason Aladdin is so dangerous is because, number one, in my packet here, it explains to you how Aladdin monitors and uses our own social media pages against us for their profit. Let me explain. If Aladdin notices a video posted anywhere on social media about racism, if Aladdin notices that this video is getting a lot of views, it's going viral, it's going to start putting that video in everybody's newsfeed. It's going to start just massively flooding our pages and our news feeds with that video. And things like war. If somebody is posting a lot of things about, let's say, the war in Gaza or any war, okay? So Aladdin is going to start again feeding that post into our pages. Now you're saying, okay, well, how do they profit from that? Well, racism is a very popular political trend that is going on right now. Okay, out here in the real world, we are not really experiencing that. It is in social media that people are really following racial videos. There may be only this many racial videos on the internet, but because of BlackRock and Vanguard's system, it makes it look like the entire internet is full of videos on racism, and that's our biggest problem. It is not. That's what I like to call living in a keyboard world. Okay, so let's go back to the trending videos on war. Now, if you Google, does BlackRock and Vanguard fund both sides of a war? Okay, Google's going to give you a bunch of bull crap. Okay, but in my packet, through my conversations with AI, it will show you exactly how they do that very same thing. They do own, through controlling shares, the same way they own everything else, the manufacturers that manufacture guns. They own these corporations that manufacture guns. They sell these guns to other countries, okay, that are in war, and they sell these guns here that are in war. So they do profit from both sides, not only in that aspect, but other ways or other aspects of, let's say, war. So the thing is, BlackRock and Vanguard own the technology, the very same technology that we are going to for information. And through that technology, through Aladdin, through AI, what happens now when you go back and try to ask the very same questions that I asked in this pamphlet, you will get completely different answers, because these conversations that we're all having with AI or Chat GPT, you can throw that one in there too. They own that technology. All these conversations that we are having, they are being monitored, okay, by actual people and by Aladdin, BlackRock and Vanguard's programming. It's called Assets something or other. Google will tell you what Aladdin is. You probably won't get the same answers that I got when I asked these in detail questions about exactly what is Aladdin and exactly what does it do, okay? And the reason for that is because, like I said, once you have these in-depth conversations with AI, it is monitored. Therefore, they're going to go back and say, oh, well, you know, we need to scratch this because we don't need this information out and, you know, for everybody, you know, to learn from. So in my pamphlet that I've put together and through my conversations with AI, I also learned about something that they call a jailbreak. It's a safety protocol. In other words, when you try to discuss certain subjects, let's say like government surveillance on American citizens, unless you get through that jailbreak and you know the exact questions and how to ask to get a fact-based answer, you know, you're going to get a bunch of bullcrap. It's going to be a bunch of crap about, oh, you know, they don't do that, and this is why, okay? Well, I already knew that they do government surveillance on American citizens. There have been documented cases that I'm sure you cannot find now. But because I already had prior knowledge of those documented cases, I was able to literally, I was literally able to point out the contradiction in AI's response to my question. So therefore, AI had to go back and find the actual factual documentation on what I was talking about. Only then did it provide the actual cases where they themselves disregarded their own laws and protocols to perform, you know, government high-stakes surveillance on American citizens. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff that we covered in this packet, but the main thing is I really want you to know that the digital system, some of us relate it to the book of Revelations and the mark of the beast. Okay, I am 100% sure that their digital system and the code that you will have to participate in their digital system, to be able to buy groceries, to be able to bank, to be able to buy seeds, to be able to purchase a weapon. Okay, let's cover that for a second. Okay, so no longer does anybody, BlackRock and Vanguard or anyone, have to bypass our Constitution and take away our right to bear arms. Through this digital system, they will be able to do that without changing our Constitution. They can just cut you off. You will literally be able to get blacklisted from this system. So I know that's a scary thing, and I want everyone to be scared. Okay, I want you to be scared. I want you to know what is really happening. So number one, we have their digital system being put into place. Number two, we have them buying up all fruit-bearing seeds. Number three, we have BlackRock and Vanguard through controlling shares, systemic weight, proxy voting, all of these means they do control everything from social media, from news to agriculture to luxury items to our banking system. And once that digital system is fully in place, that's it. That's it. They will literally control everything we say and do. And it will all literally be done through these phones, these smartphones, these little devices that we walk around in our hands all day long. When they implement this digital system, you will have to buy into it. And you think that you have control over your privacy settings in your phone now? You think you can turn your camera off, you can turn your microphone off, you can do this, you can do that. You won't be able to do that anymore. Your phone will literally become a tracking device and a means to cut you off if you do not comply. All of this is in my packet, and I know these videos are long. It is a lot to cover. Tomorrow I will try to make another video. Also, throughout this packet, you're going to learn that BlackRock and Vanguard are fully aware of this one right here. We are at the paralyzing frustration, being told there's nothing you can do about it when your hard-earned money and security are actively threatened is a form of institutional gaslighting. And in this packet, it shows how BlackRock and Vanguard's system, where they own the banks that are set up to allow fraud, and then they turn around and own the very same companies that want you to buy an anti-fraud packet or whatever they want to call it. It's all owned by the same thing. They set you up to be scammed. They set you up for fraud. And then they own the very same companies that sell you an anti-fraud system that is also failed. So we talk about the psychological, the emotional, and all of the physical, all of the effects that this system is having on everyday people trying to survive in a forced system set up to fail us. So, okay, I'm going to end it at this right now. And once again, please don't focus on me. Try to focus on what I'm saying, because I'm very nervous, and it's a lot of information to get out. And, you know, in the packet, AI and myself, we use a lot of technical and, you know, legal terms that everyday average person does not understand. So that's why I felt like it was important for me to make these videos so that I can give you this knowledge in a way that everyone will understand. Okay, I hope everybody learns something from this video, and I hope you learned something from the first video. And also, I would like to add before I go that there is an increase in people cashing out their 401ks, their IRAs. They are taking their money out of the bank. This makes me very happy, because it goes back to the fact that we are funding our own demise. We are funding this digital system that they are trying to force on us, that they will use to make us comply. Right now, they have to go and they got to go through a lot of BS to try and change laws and get around our constitutional rights. When their system is fully implemented, they're not going to need any of those things anymore. So please, please, I know, again, it's a scary thing that I am asking you to do, but we have got to cut them off. Like in my first video, I explained how if we were talking about a tree, we are the roots. We are the roots of this massive tree that BlackRock and Vanguard sets on top of and holds all of our supplies. They own all the gold, they own all the money, they own all the riches, okay? Just picture that. BlackRock and Vanguard setting up here with all their treasures, making themselves godlike. But we actually hold the power. We are the roots of their system, and we hold the axe. Okay? I'm asking everybody to start wielding that axe. We need to cut down BlackRock and Vanguard because we are funding our own demise. We need to get back to trading locally, trading within our own communities. Yes, we will need some supplies from corporate, but if we start now and we perfect our system, it is possible. It is possible, and I show you in the packet how it is definitely possible to live without corporate America. Because corporate America really means that the rich, the uber rich, the luxuries of the uber rich, okay, and all their specialty items, we're paying for all that, okay? The average everyday citizen around the world who is a cashier or a construction worker does not need to pay for their luxuries to be imported from another country. The price of everything in America is high because they want everything imported from other countries. We're paying for all of that. Us everyday citizens, we don't live like that. We're not in the luxury world. We just want to provide for our families. We just want basic needs. We don't need to pay, what we're paying for a gallon of milk because people want imported olive oil. Okay, olive oil from Italy. We don't need to pay for that. Yes, we would like to have olive oil, but do we need to have it actually imported from Italy? Think of all the things that the rich or the elite have. Think about all the things that they have, okay? All the things that they put in their homes. Just think about that for a minute. We don't live in that world, but yet we're paying for it with our own blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. I think I've given you enough information today. I'm getting a headache, and I can't talk anymore. Thank you.